too late. Never too late. It's never too much. It's never too much. There is no sin too big for His love. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too much. There is no sin too big for His love. It's never too late.
Welcome back to the Discipler Group. We're glad that you've come back to join us. We appreciate all that the pastors are doing. We're here at Rock in Ocean City, Maryland, where there's 6,000 young people here for the weekend. We want to give a shout out to all of our pastors. Let's give a shout out to the pastors. What's up? Great. We appreciate all that you're doing in the church and how you continue to bless God and bless the people you serve. So we also want to thank you today. Let's thank our pastors. All right. All right. You know, one of the things that I've really been encouraged by is just to see the number of pastors who come to Rock. Some come for the whole weekend, some come for a day, and some come to just for a few hours to support their young people. It means a lot to them. You know, encouraging people today is so important, and one of the ways that we get to do that is by sharing our faith with others. And so we've been talking about sharing our faith and how to share our faith with others, and we're going to see more, we're going to learn more about that again today. But we have a special guest with us today. Reggie Dabbs, who's been the speaker here at the Rock, is with us, and he's going to talk with us a little bit on the video today, and we're grateful for his participation.
Today we have with us a panel of our pastors to talk about market evangelism. Our pastors include Reverend Mary Dennis, William Cheney, Wade Martin, and Dred Scott.
So again, we're glad that you're back. We look forward to working with you, and God bless.
Reggie, you're a great storyteller, but some of us struggle with sharing our faith. What suggestions do you have for us?
When you share your faith for Jesus Christ, it's something that you need to learn, just like riding a bicycle, like anything like that. So the kids in our college, the kids I work with, young people say, I want to be a speaker. First thing I have them do is to write out their testimony, write out your life. I even go down to the minute things like, you have a scar or scrape or something that you got when you were a kid? How did it happen? What did it feel like? Things like that. Because what the Bible says in the book of Revelation is, they'll know you're a Christian by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So speaking is one thing, but you got to share what Jesus has done in your life. Because I heard this once, and it's so true. A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. You can argue doctrine all day, but when you know because of your story what Jesus has done in your life, no one can argue that, because that's your story. And so it's so important that kids learn that, and just write it down, share it with your friends, and get comfortable with it. And all of a sudden you find that you're living the book of Revelation and you're sharing your faith.
Well, what do people need to know about sharing their faith?
The first thing people need to know about their testimony or their story is that it's theirs, that God has made them specifically to live out that story. And if they never share it, then who will know what God has done in their life? They'll know you're a Christian by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. The second thing you need to know about your story is that everything happens for a reason. That you have no idea if you get up and share with a friend, this happened to me, that happened to me, and if I can make it, you can too. You have no idea what that's going to do in their life until you share your story. In Luke chapter 4, Jesus goes into a desert, and he's there, and he talks to the devil and all that stuff. That's a part of Jesus' testimony, to let us know that no matter what happens in our life, the hurt, the pain, the sorrow, Jesus was in that desert as well, and he went through it so that we can make it as well. And then what we need to know is that for the next generation and the next, that God's given us the ability not just to have pain, hurt, and sorrow, but to go through things, to overcome things, to help that next generation. I don't know what my son has heard me speak, but there's got to be something that I've said in a part of my story that my son goes, no, my dad made it through that, so I'm going to do what he did. You have no idea who you're going to be saving. There was once a movie Titanic, and in the movie Titanic, in the real life, not just the movie, but real life, there was a life raft, and it didn't have but like 5 people in it. And the husband and wife was on this raft. Well, the wife said, let's go back. The husband said, no, we'll drown. And, you know, a lot of times wives win. She said, you better turn around. And he did. He's like, go back, you know. Well, they started pulling people after this murky water. And when this barge came to help the people from the Titanic, this dad reached in the bottom of the boat and pulled a kid up, and it was his own son. They had put him on the boat earlier, but somehow he got knocked off that boat, and he would have drowned if his dad had never came back. See, you have no idea who we're going back for because you told your story. But you have to. Why? Because they'll know we're Christian by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
What do you think the real key is to sharing our faith?
I think there's 3 keys that makes one huge key, and just sitting here thinking about it, the first key is trusting God. Not only trusting God that you can tell your testimony, but trusting that what you went through was worth it. What you went through had purpose behind it. What you went through is going to be able to help someone, save someone, and change their life. The second key is that you do it. So many people get so close to almost sharing their faith, but they just kind of come up with an excuse not to. There's no time for excuses. There's no time to say, well, I should have. Even pastors, so many pastors just, you know, I'm doing my part. I got my 4-point sermon. What happens when in the middle of that 4-point sermon you say, I remember when I was 14 and this happened to me? All of a sudden your whole congregation feels like they're more a part of who you are as a pastor than just sitting in a pew and giving their tithe. And the third key, which is the most important key, I think, is that there's nothing that we're going through that Jesus hadn't already done. There's nothing that we can do or have done that we can say, not even Jesus had to go through this. He did. And because he won, we win. We just got to remember those 3 keys. And the biggest key, when all those keys come together, you know what it opens the door called? Salvation. It opens the door of hope. It opens the door of peace. It opens the door of we can make it together.
Well, thank you, Reggie. This has been a CCYM News presentation.
Good morning and welcome to E-Zone. I'm Reverend Mary Dennis, your guide, and we're glad you've joined us today to talk about how to help people develop a relationship with God through Christ. Now, today we'll be talking about marketplace evangelism, and my guests are Reverend William Cheney and Reverend Wade Martin and Reverend Dred Scott. Welcome, gentlemen.
It's good. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to begin with you, William. Would you explain what you mean by marketplace ministry?
Yes, marketplace ministry is when we go out to the public places and share Christ with the people who are around. It could be anywhere, absolutely anywhere.
Well, would that include servant evangelism?
Absolutely. In fact, servant evangelism is one of the most effective ways to reach people that's non-threatening for those who, for the first time, are going out to share Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. When we go and actually share, have the opportunity to share the love of Christ with someone in the natural places where they're living, whether it's on the soccer field or in their workplace, it is a very good thing. And it's easy, it's cost-effective, and one of the ways that we're encouraging our pastors to get out and share with their congregations.
Well, why don't you give me some examples of specifics?
When we were in Columbus, we went out, took 60 kids, mm-hmm. and we went to the mall, and we washed windows and left cards on their door that said, we washed your windows for the love of Christ, because we have a deep love in Christ. We also, when we were in Cincinnati, we took water bottles. We had stickers made to put on to give directions to the church. And as we handed it out to people on the streets on a very hot day, the only thing was, this is because we love Christ and want to share that love with you. We've also done free car washes. Just opened up at a car wash, of course with the owner's permission, and washed cars for free.
Well, I want to ask you about this card. Is there any indication on the card where they can find out more information if they want to know more about why you love Jesus enough to do something like this?
Yes, we have information about where the church is, where the church website is, and the phone number.
Okay, so they know how to connect if they want to know more.
Correct.
Excellent. All right. Well, in your description of marketplace ministry, you said it could happen anywhere. Did you really mean that?
Absolutely, it can happen anywhere. I remember that we used to have a 6 a.m. Bible study in the cafeteria at Coca-Cola in Atlanta, and that's where several of our members were. They found it difficult to get the Bible study, so we would actually be there in the morning and have Bible study. Started off just with those who were working at Coke that went from the church, but actually we grew to about 17 to 18 people each Wednesday morning. It can happen on the soccer field. It can happen in schools. When I said everywhere, I meant absolutely any and everywhere.
Okay. Well, Reverend Scott, I heard that you're involved in a innovative marketplace ministry. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, I'd like to think, Mary, that it's innovative. It's really just a way to reach people where they're at. What William has said about marketplace evangelism, we didn't necessarily put that name on and give it that rubric, but most certainly it's meeting people where they're at, where their workplace is, taking the gospel to them. The mechanic shop ministry came about as a result of my interacting with my mechanic, who serviced my car for many years, worked for a major car dealer in the Dundalk area for about a quarter of a century, and decided to branch out on his own. He's been asking me over and over again. He calls me Mr. Scott, by the way. He calls me Reverend Scott. He calls me Mr. Scott. He knows I'm a pastor because I went and did his grandmother's funeral for him. But he kept on after me, said, when are we going to do a Bible study? I said, you tell me when. And when he and his partner, Rick, found a new location, we began to prepare to have what we call the mechanics of faith. Since he's a mechanic, and it's kind of a clever use of the word, using a dual meaning for it. And we went in first and blessed his business. He wanted us to do that. So just like we would do a house blessing, we did a business blessing, his facility. And it's been really remarkable in many ways because the owners attribute their success in business to the Bible study partially. In this present economy, when car lots are shutting down and there's no business, they have boom business.
Wow.
We started doing Bible study. It started to be the mechanics that worked there. There were 4 in number at first, and then it increased to 6. His wife, my wife, people from the community, customers. Everybody started congregating, and at first we would sit right in the shop area where the lifts were. And then when it got cold, we moved into the area where customers come, the customer area, and found that that was convenient when the weather was a little colder. We've used Bible studies, we've used videos, we've done projects together already, and they've come to the church to recommit their life to Christ. As a matter of fact, Mary, one of the most interesting aspects of what we do is that it's mostly about relationship building. It's extending the relationships that we've already had to point toward developing a more intimate relationship with Jesus. One of the women that has been a part of the ministry since we started has had some health issues, and her husband has had some health issues, and I've gotten calls late at night to pray and to come to the hospital. And they're not members of the church, but they're members of the church, of what we seek to do, with John Wesley's understanding that the whole world is our parish. You're getting a shot at it.
I think one of the best things about marketplace ministry is that we are available, we make ourselves available for folks to ask the questions of faith, and who knows if that one question isn't the exact thing that helps them make that bridge back to connect with a community of faith and be again in a living fully in God's light.
It's reciprocity, but because it's not just what we give, I get a whole lot. I get a whole lot of insights. Some of the questions that are asked and some of the insights in the study of the Bible just goes to validate what the Scripture says. It's not what you have or what you don't have. It's that you be willing.
That's right.
So it's been just been a wonderful experience, and we're looking to continue to grow and to do other things that don't so much have to do with just Bible study, but have to do, as I said, with that relationship building and reaching the community.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Dred.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
And William, I understand that you're also working with like some program designed to help people who are doing marketplace ministry get the word out. So tell me about that.
It's called Our Stories of Grace, and we're in our pilot phase right now, but actually I got the idea from Reverend Wade Martin.
Okay. Well, Reverend Martin, tell me about your vintage coffee shop.
A little over 2 years ago, I began the daily discipline of going to the local coffee shop in Mount Airy, Maryland. And I would get there when the shop would open, and I would spend about an hour and a half there. I called it Coffee with the Lord. It was my time of devotion. And what began as an hour and a half devotional time really has evolved into something much bigger. I still spend the first half hour in devotion to God. But what has happened is we have a number of regular customers that come into the coffee shop as well as others, and they've gotten used to seeing me there. So it truly is a ministry of presence. I sit in the same seat every morning, and people will come in and say hello. Sometimes a customer will come in and ask the owner if the pastor is here. And we engage in a number of different conversations, from time of prayer, because they have a loved one that perhaps is going into the hospital. They ask questions about the scripture that I'm reading at that time when they encounter me. They want to talk about their faith. So it truly has evolved into something much greater, and it is unique in a way because nothing is planned. It's all very informal, and it truly is meeting people in the ordinary places of life, and it's very, very effective.
So in essence, you are the chaplain of the coffee shop, and they know where to go if they want to talk to somebody about issues of faith.
Correct. In a sense, that's what it's come to be. It's kind of funny because they know my name, yet they still call me the pastor. And when I'm not there on any given morning, people are wondering where I am because they have gotten so used to me being there. So truly, in my mind, evangelism is all about just being present with people, telling your story, listening to their story, sharing with them, building a relationship with them, and inviting them into a stronger relationship with Christ.
Thank you, Wade. Now, William, I wonder if you could tell me more about this Stories of Grace project that you started talking about.
Well, it's almost just like Reverend Martin said. The goal is to allow pastors the opportunity to go into the marketplace where they live, coffee shops, Dunkin' Donuts, pizza houses, wherever it is, and then be there, be present, and have people come to them so that they can share their stories of grace. What we're going to do is provide a website where we're going to have 10 to 15 people sharing how the grace of God has made a difference in their life. Also on that same website, we're providing a short video where the pastors will introduce where they will be so that different people can say, hey, this person's near my house. I would like to go and see them and share my story of faith, or even ask them questions. We're also providing support through the postcards, and we have New Testament giveaways with just inside of it saying Our Stories of Grace. And so it's a complete opportunity for the pastor to develop for himself, his leadership team, or other members in the congregation to go out into the marketplace and do ministry.
Okay, so how many pastors are involved in this pilot phase of the project?
In the pilot phase, we only have 10 pastors. We want to get some feedback about the places that work, the places that don't work, some of the great experiences they've had, and even some that may be challenging. Then we would like to put that into a training so all the pastors who would like to do marketplace evangelism, we're able to share with them the best practices. And this should be available early to mid-April. The website will be up just a little bit before that. And we're looking forward to congregations all over our conference engaging in marketplace evangelism.
Okay, so if other pastors want to jump in beyond the pilot and do this too, when and how can they do that?
We'll be announcing in May, after we've done the pilot and gotten all the information together, how other pastors can do that. It is our hope that other pastors will be able to engage as soon as June 1 and doing marketplace evangelism with our support services.
All right. Well, I understand that you're also working with the Young Adult Council, and I get a lot of questions about how to share faith with young adults and get them sharing faith. So can you share some of that with us?
Absolutely. In fact, there's so many ways to share with Christ with young adults that are so different from those in my generation, your generation. One of the most unique ways is the video devotions that young adults are doing. But if I were to actually go into all the ways that we can actually reach young adults, we would be here way beyond our time together that's been allotted. But yes, there's so many ways to reach young adults. If you would allow me to come back at another program, I'd be willing to share in a systematic way how we can reach young adults.
Okay, well, I'll hold you to that. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming today and being part of our E-Zone presentation and for sharing the ways in which you are helping others come into a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been a joy.
And to everyone who's watching, it's my prayer that God will inspire you to find ways for you to enter the E-Zone and to share your faith with others. Blessings to you. Until we meet again.